for PCS, the lines as I see them in my head, we have the original line, which is the quarter scale mixed media line. It's actually slightly smaller than quarter scale, but it's the quarter scale mixed media line. It comes on the black base. All the poses are fairly neutral. I say most of them are ready poses. So that's the main line. We've done a lot of figures from that line, cloth costuming and all that. The other line is the Ultra line, which is fully sculpted in action poses on a museum style base. That's the new line. Vega kicked off the new line a month or so ago to great sales. Now the new line is intended to scratch several itches. One, people who love action poses. We get a lot of fans saying, I love Street Fighter, I like your statues, but I want dynamics because these are Street Fighter characters. So the action poses scratch that itch. Two, a lot of people don't like fabric on their statues. They just want a sculpture. They're just something more classical. So the Ultra line is all sculpted. You won't find any fabric. Mixed media in the sense that Vega's claws will be metal, but that's more because we don't want to have breakage issues. And then the third aspect of the Ultra line that separates it from the mixed media line is the museum style base. They will all have a museum style base in a similar size, proportion, mass, shape, but all the bases the design will reflect that character. So Vega's had a lot of Spanish architecture and symbolism. Cammy is next. Cammy's will sort of be reminiscent of her gauntlet. It's pretty cool looking. So those are the two lines for full figure statues. Then there's the third scale line. The third scale line is sort of just whatever I feel like doing, to be honest with you. I mean, there's no great plan for it because they're so expensive and they're so big. I know we can only do one, maybe, one every 12 months or maybe two every 16 months or something like that. We can't do too many of them. Akuma and Shin Akuma were the first. Ryu will be next in the fall. After that, I'm not promising, but Chun-Li is high on my radar to do. I just think of realistic Chun-Li at that size with perfectly tailored clothing would be stunning. She's such a beautiful character. So those are the statue lines. Then we also have the life-size busts. We had done Ryu and Akuma with the life-size busts, but because of the marketing and media attention that Street Fighter V is going to have, we may do a couple more life-size busts, get them out there right around when 5 comes out and see how they do. Because there's a couple characters I just feel like sculpting, and sometimes I do things, almost in a vanity way, like I want to sculpt this, so let's make a statue out of it. So that's Street Fighter. And then we have the 6 scale action figures, which you'll see at the end of the year.
Wait, which bust did you say?
I don't know who. I want to do both Sagat and Bison, so I'm not sure who I would do. But I'm thinking Bison because that ties into 5 really well.
Okay.
With a real fabric hat. Wouldn't that be awesome? The process we go through to make the Street Fighter statues, usually I find the design, the pose I want. I have something in my head that I want to do. I'll hire an artist to sketch something up, or I'll find existing artwork. Sometimes there's a piece of existing artwork that is really inspirational to me, and I'll show it to Capcom. They'll have feedback. Sometimes it's great, go. Beautiful, no comments. Other times it's, we hate that piece of artwork. Here's a piece of artwork we would like you to do. That's happened a few times. If I dig the artwork Capcom wants to use, then that's fine, no big deal. But sometimes there's a back and forth that can last several months. The Akuma 1/3 scale statue is a good example of that. I had a pose I wanted to do. Capcom didn't like it. They said it wasn't actually based on any one particular piece of Akuma artwork. It was sort of an amalgamation of artwork images that I thought would work really well. Capcom said, no, we don't like that. So I said, well, let me rough out the sculpture and show it to you. So I did. And they still didn't like it. So at that point, you know, we had gone 2 months and we had gone nowhere on Akuma. So they gave me a piece of artwork they liked, which was, you know, the traditional, gosh, I can't think of the term for the pose, but the wide leg crouch, sort of the ready pose. But I didn't feel that would work at a 3rd scale statue. It just, the base is too big. So what I did is I put together 5 different designs for them and showed it to them, and we kind of worked through at that point, and then we found the pose. I roughed it out. They still had some changes. I had to cut it apart and bend it and move it. I had the back arched forward. They wanted the back arched back. It sounds like a simple thing, not such a simple thing.
So that's even before you get started.
Yeah, that's really early stages. So we're talking 3, maybe early into month 4 at this point, and that's as far as we got. So you know, we got the sculpture done, approvals, all of that, molds, casts, paints, costuming. You know, all of this takes many months. I know a lot of companies can rush through it. I mean, I've seen companies turn out statues in 3 weeks. I don't know how they do it. I'm really nitpicky. Maybe that's what it is. So I'll sit and adjust a foot for 3 weeks. The collector may not notice it, but it bothers me if I don't do it. So then we send the tooling and the masters and all that stuff to China. China usually takes between 4 and 6 weeks to get us pricing. We get the pricing. You know, if we have to negotiate pricing a little, we do. They get started. It usually takes another 3 months, maybe, yeah, about 3 months, and we'll get a sample. The sample is almost never good. 9 times out of 10, it's bad. Not even okay, it's just bad. They just missed the boat. So then we have to do notes, send it back to them. They do more samples. It's not unusual to go through 4 or 5 rounds of samples before we get one that we feel is right. However, if let's say the problem is with the costuming, we will continue the process of making the polystone pieces, because the polystone pieces won't change. It's just the costuming. So we'll continue to do notes on the costuming while they're making all the polystone pieces to not lose too much time. You know, so we're somewhere around month 8, month 9 by the time we get a good sample. And final samples go to Capcom, for example, on Street Fighter, and they have their notes sometimes. Sometimes in the time between the first approval of the prototype and the approval of the sample, someone at Capcom may have decided, yeah, okay, we think the skin tone should be a little darker, even though we were okay with it 8 months ago. So we have to do that, and it's a process. It's a long process, especially with the high-end stuff. I mean, with $20 action figures, not so much, but with the high-end stuff, it's a long process. I'd say my favorite Street Fighter piece so far is, well, it's my Akuma. It's the 3rd scale Akuma, because I did all of it except for the costuming, you know, myself. So it has a special place in my heart. It harkens back to the very first piece we ever made, which was the 1/4 scale Akuma, which I sculpted myself. So that's by far my favorite piece. However, if I were looking at favorite pieces from some of our other artists, I would say that this new Blanca is really, really good. He will actually, I think you're going to get a sneak peek of him in this video. But he's awesome. Like, everything about the Blanca I love. I get a lot of questions about Hugo. You know, I like Hugo. I think he's a very interesting looking character. My concern with Hugo is there's a couple things. One, he's massive. He's bigger than Zangief. You're talking about a $500 statue of a character that isn't really considered very popular. Even with his most recent appearance, he's just not that popular. So, while we are an art studio and I put art before finances, we still have to be profitable, and we can't just lose money. So I do worry that Hugo wouldn't sell enough pieces at his price to justify making him. I mean, we'd have to sell at least 250, 300 pieces to justify making Hugo. That's one problem. The other problem with Hugo is this. Collectors only have so much money, and so we only put out X amount of statues per year. So do we want to use one of those slots for Hugo as opposed to using it for someone who's really high in demand? That's an important question that we have to ask ourselves. Going to give a couple shout outs to some of our really good customers and people that have supported us, since the beginning. Really great collectors. Carmelo from My Collectible World, hey, hi. And Sarfaraz, you're back into collecting again. It's good for the soul. So yeah, thank you guys. Oh, Jopula, whom I think sent me an email just the other day. Shout out to you too. Shout out to everybody on Statue Forum. I mean, Statue Forum is a great place. We've never really considered starting our own forum because Statue Forum handles our needs great. So shout out to the owners and admin and moderators and everybody on Statue Forum and all the participants. 99% of the people on Statue Forum are great. And I appreciate all the constructive criticism, all of that stuff. And yeah,